Hello, welcome to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney. Today's review, we're going to be looking at some AI terms. So essentially, I am going to take a quick look to see the products and services being offered. I can see above that this relates to video usage. These are some terms that we're going to review related to the artificial intelligence. The name of this organization is Kling AI. I'm just going to quickly look at the products. Kling AI, wow, interesting. So I'm only going to spend a couple minutes on this, but they do image generation, right? And we already know that non-biometric photos constitute personal data. We know for video that voice recordings constitute personal data, as does non-biometric photos that make up a video. So at a minimum, we can already see two different privacy implications for this AI. Now let's go back to the terms. So acceptance of the terms, this was last updated December 5th, 2025, and it's effective the same day. Okay, so this is only a month old. These terms, including our privacy policy and community guidelines, are incorporated herein by reference. So what does this mean for a customer? It means that all of them need to be read in tandem. So when you have a privacy counsel, let's say, for example, you want to engage a privacy counsel to say, hey, I want to use this tool. Is it okay for my business? Not only do you need to provide these terms of service, you need to also provide the privacy policy and the community guidelines, because the provisions should work in tandem. If there's a provision here that does not align with the privacy policy and community guidelines, you can have your privacy counsel to indicate this to your service provider so that they can either address it, or you can decide that this is not a service provider for you. The services provide certain features and functionality that allow users to create, modify, share, and otherwise use information. Now, I want to, if I can, just say something. There is a term in the data protection space called a processing activity. A processing activity is any operation or set of operation on personal data to include using, deleting, modifying, extracting, right? Anytime you touch personal data, you are conducting a processing activity on it, and there's a number of ramifications and implications that any business has when it processes personal data. Now, I just wanted to make note of create, modify, share, and otherwise use information, because this particular platform allows for image generation and video creation, right? We saw that on the explore page. So those are things to take into consideration. One, if you are the service provider, and two, if you're a customer, because there is going to be processing that users are allowed to conduct. And that has to be accounted for in a number of different ways. Depending on how storage is conducted for the video and images will determine who is responsible for the data and what the terms that Kling AI offers on who is responsible for that information, whether it's from a data controller perspective or a data processor perspective, right? I'm not going to go too much into those privacy terms because we're going to probably see some reference to who's responsible in the terms of service here. But I did want to make note of the fact that users are allowed to create, modify, and share information. And I know that information includes personal data, right? And this is through the use of generative artificial intelligence technology. If you use Kling AI or the services provided by us, you are deemed to hereby represent and warrant you are lawfully able to be bound by and agree to be bound by and accept this agreement or other related documents that are expressly incorporated into this agreement by reference. If you're using our services on behalf of a company, association, partnership, organization, or other entity, whether in part or in whole, then you agree, represent, warrant, and undertake that you and your customer, you are duly authorized by and will remain authorized by the company to agree on its behalf and bind such company, to these terms. So this is not a privacy term, but it's very important from a data protection perspective, because I had just mentioned above the responsibilities of a data controller and a data processor. Now I will go into an explanation about what those are. A data controller determines the means and purpose of processing. If you are using Kling AI service, right, allowing your users within your business to create, modify, share, or otherwise use information, you're determining the means, right? The means is I want to use this for my users within my business. Now, the purpose for processing, you might create marketing materials, right? And in order for you to create those marketing materials, you are obtaining the services of this business, right? So in that context, you, the business, are the data controller, and the data processor is Kling AI, because Kling AI is providing you the opportunity to use their services for your purpose. Essentially, what this sentence is referencing is who is in control, whether it's you, the customer, or whether it's Kling AI. So I'm sure we're going to see more about the roles and responsibilities of each party, but essentially what this is saying is if you use the services as the customer and you're signing up for it, you agree to be bound by the terms that are being outlined by your service provider, which is Kling AI. Okay, let's look at access. The services are offered and provided to you on an as is and as available basis at your sole risk. Our goal is to minimize disruption caused by technical errors. However, we cannot guarantee the continuous and uninterrupted or error-free operability of Kling AI at all times. This word stands out to me, and it's something that I would scrutinize. There may be times when certain functionality or features of Kling AI or content made available become unavailable, or are modified, suspended, or withdrawn by us at our sole discretion without notice to you. You agree that we will not be liable to you or to any third party for any unavailability, modification, suspension, or withdrawal. I think what would be valuable for this particular terms are definitions. In addition to that, I think there should be some insight into what constitutes modification for this business, because I don't know the ins and outs of their products. I only know this on a surface level from looking at their explore page and reading these terms. But what type of modifications could arise? And I would be able to give advice as to what implications that might have from a data protection perspective, but that's not provided in these terms. The customer should be able to know what constitutes a modification, and then what implications a withdrawal of Kling AI on a particular feature might have on a customer. I think that's really important. I don't want to go too much into depth on that because there's so much information that's missing when I do these reviews. I can only give a very bird's eye view based on what terms a business offers on their site. I want to talk a bit more about the privacy piece. In order to access Kling AI, you are required to sign up for a Kling AI account and become a user. You can log into Kling AI using username and password, so we already know there's some personal data in scope. The first time you log in Kling AI using email verification, so we've already identified 3 personal data elements. An account of our platform will be provided for you. You can access the services of our platform by logging in with your account. I want to make a comment about this sentence. I personally believe that it's impossible to do business in 2026 without at least some form of personal data, because generally when you're interacting with a service, you need to provide at a minimum your name, your email address, and maybe a username. I've yet to see any type of platform or offering by a service provider that doesn't at a minimum collect these types of identifiers, which means that you as a business need to take data protection seriously, because you're processing personal data, even if it's minimal to the identifiers I just outlined. By creating an account, you undertake to and shall provide true, accurate, up-to-date and complete information as we may from time to time request, and shall not provide us with any false or misleading information. You authorize us to assume that any person using Kling AI with your username and password is either you or a person authorized to act for you. Now, I'm very intrigued about why a person authorized would be using the username and password of a different individual. I find this to be very high risk. I find this to be very, very high risk. And I would ask for justification if Kling AI was my client. I would ask for justification as to why another person would be using the username and password of a different individual. That's very problematic from a data protection standpoint. And I'll give you one example of why I think it would be. When it comes to data subject access requests, a data subject access request is a request that a data subject has based on the obligations in the geography where it's a resident that businesses have to adhere to if they process the personal data of an individual in that jurisdiction. Now, that's a very long-winded explanation of individuals have rights when it comes to their personal data. Now, those rights are determinate based on where they're a resident. So I'm a resident in a specific US state. When a business processes my personal data, they have the obligation to fulfill any requests I have when it comes to my personal data, whether it's access, delete, etc., etc. There's lots of different rights. But essentially, that's why I think it's very problematic to share usernames and passwords, because If the username and password doesn't belong to a second individual, how does an organization determine fulfilling data subject access requests when a different user is using the username and password of an alternate individual? It's really problematic. You must safeguard the username and password of your account and keep them secret and confidential. This seems to be, in conflict a bit, right? Because it wouldn't be secret if you've authorized someone to use your username and password. I think that's going to be it for this review. Obviously, there's a lot more insights that are offered in these terms of service. I really hope you enjoyed this AI terms and service review. If you like this type of content, subscribe, and I'll see you in another review.